Okay, I'm going to have my co-conspirator come up as well. This is William Corbett. This was sort of a seed. And when I talked to Bob about it, I said, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll look at it. So I drew it up, and they said, well, that's nice, but we know you're not a welder, so you just need to go find somebody to fabricate it. So with that, William came up first, because we've been doing shows and been friends and for years. So when I went over to William and showed him the initial drawing, and knowing how William reacted, the first thing William said was, cool. So when he said cool, I knew that was a done deal. So his head started spinning. I said, okay, this guy. So he started throwing all these ideas, and this way the drawing started changing. And we started seeing different things. So from what started off as, say, 3 feet, we ended up being 8 feet. And then other things came in that we ended up with almost 12 feet of sculpture. But we had to stay with that initial theme, whereas we was trying to generate something that was indigenous to this area versus just doing something that's gimmicky. Once you are born and raised on the Gulf Coast, that becomes native blood. And that's just something that we just had to do. So the base are, what's on those bases are stylized animal images. So what you would have is fish, birds, and all these things. And then what we end up with the cycle of life, because what these things represent is just what Herndon and Bob had mentioned, is because you're dealing with unity, justice, family, the whole 9 yards. So what I'm giving you is sort of a snippet of what I see. So if you see something in it that reflects your life and what you've been going through, for something that's positive, and that's what these are. These are strictly positive figures. We're not anything with this negative crime and all this type of stuff. It's just that those things that keep a unity going, and those things that you can be proud of. So I just want to, I had a little thing here that's written up, because you know I'm not the world's greatest speech writer. But it's just that when the Downtown Alliance had approached me, and I thought, well, you know, I probably could do that, because in truth, it wasn't that much African art floating around in Mobile for its contemporary art that you can see on a daily basis. And I wanted to go in and then pay homage to the females. And within the female, you have so much that sisterhood. And that's what I want to explore. And I want to thank the Downtown Alliance, Herndon Inns, the Mobile County Commissioner, especially Monsieur Lovegood. We'll talk about that later. But and then William, which is really had free reign on the studio, and his parents, which is also a part of this, is William Corbett Sr. and his mother, which is what we consider our quality control. So if anything is wrong or going wrong, she'll definitely let us know that we need to change it. So I want to thank them for being a part of this project. And also Bay City Borders, who donated their time and material to come in and marbilize the slab, so we wouldn't have it as just a concrete slab. So it's giving you something that it make the whole piece move. And so I also like to thank my friends and family. And I was told by my wife to make sure that I mention her. So, did William want to say a few words?
I've just enjoyed this a lot. I appreciate for being a part of it. It's been wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed building it.
Thank you. I wasn't even a bicycle rack wasn't nowhere even in the play, but I just wanted to do something more sculptural. And I had these African symbols in my head because I was studying those, and I figured, well, if I do something like that, that would stand out more so, because I always wanted to do a public art piece, but that would really stand out, and that would give something more of a heritage piece in this town, so because we have there's not that much African American images floating downtown. You know, so I figured that was something to play homage, especially where they had a place, which was over between Government and Raw Street, and that was close to this City Museum, which was the Southern Market. So when I started looking at it, I said all this stuff started tying in, and I'm thinking, well, I could sort of play homage to black female, getting sort of like a little, and this when the themes started coming in, you know, started playing in with the slave market, paying homage to that, and then when I went over to Iron Age Studio with William and pitched the idea to him, he came in with his perspective on how we could kind of, because in the beginning I was looking at him as just being flat in the front, and he was, and being a metalsmith, he started giving me ideas, throwing stuff that instead of having them flat, we kind of twist them a little. Because when you look at them, you know, they just, although they may be turned, that torso got a little angle to it. So actually they had to study. And then he had it where he split that, where you see that center line down that look like legs. So this way everybody start, you know, well, not everybody, but we started thinking about kind of put a center line there. That would give it more of a figure. Instead of being flat, it would sort of give you that image of legs. So once we got that going, it was a done deal. So all we had to do was just figure out how big.
Yeah. But I was going to ask you, I mean, in your initial thinking of it, what was your idea of scale? Was it that large to begin with? Did it grow?
Oh, it grew.
Yeah.
I mean, for that, it was just supposed to be in the two bases, the two body parts, a neck ring, and a headdress. The base wasn't nowhere to be. The base wasn't even there. The only time the base came into play is when they changed to the city county building. Now we had a problem with the perspective and the scale of the sculptures, because if we would have put them in the way they was initially, they would have been dwarfed. So you needed something that people would have to look up. In the beginning, it was more like eye level. So that's when we had to go back and change it. So you started getting another 2 feet on that. And doing that, I got to the problem that I'm saying, well, the base is going to be plain. But then knowing if you was going to have something that was in any kind of Afrocentric or African design, the whole unit got to be designed. You can't just have it plain. So going through my initial research, looking at different, let's say, African drums, I saw what you could do to stylized animals. So we took that drum image and made the bass out of it. And that came back to the Mobile Delta.
So initially, shape was...
We had already planned out for the headdresses to be adorned, because in the beginning they was flat. That way the guy cut them out, or the way he welded out, the welder thought that he had did a good job. He said, man, these are nice. I said, no, but you gotta make them look like they're jewelry, because when you look at them from the street level, from a distance, you just see the shape. But as you come up on them, you start seeing all these little decorative textures. And that's what I wanted. I want this thing
like adornment.
Right. So we got to adorn this thing, which he did. It was nice. So when we added the base to it, the base couldn't be flat. We got to give this thing some type of ceremony. We got to have it coming from a culture. So we got to start putting these little. And since I'm the artist and William the fabricator, we can do whatever we want. So that's when we figured, well, let's pull from the Delta and put some of these stylized animals around, and this way you'll know that you got that they come from somewhere. So it was just a plan after a plan after a plan, but with those plans you got to sit there and make sure everything is tied together. So it wasn't this afterthought. It was that, okay, we got this building, I just can't stick these things there.
It was more of a progression than an afterthought.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing you have to deal
with the welding beads as texture on the bases and the headdresses. That would be part of the progression of the surface treatment.
Right, because if you sit there and try to, the way I looked at it, even the design, you can only sketch out between 60 to 70% of it. And the rest of it is once you get to work, then you can add and subtract.
Just for somebody who's not done anything like this, how far did you take the initial drawings? I mean, were they very simplistic or basic? Did you do
very basic, and then you got to sleep on it.
Yeah.
You get a silhouette in your head, and then you can sit there and add it. You start putting things together, and that's the way it works. And then when I go in and see stuff that needs to be changed, if it's just move this over here, do this, and it worked.
So the initial drawings are pretty much sort of like blueprints.
Right.
They weren't three-dimensional renderings.
No, it was just a simple blueprint.
Right.
And I left it up to William to do the scale.
Right.
Because they had the resources to do that, you know, because I couldn't go in. I knew that in the beginning that it was going to be 8 feet. And that's even with the top of the headdress. But when you put the base on, you come into a totally different dimension. Because we had to figure out how wide and how tall, and then they had to be stupid proof.
Right.
Because they said you got to be child proof, so then and knowing in this area when they have Mardi Gras and all that kind of
drunk
stuff,
proof.
They had to be drunk proof. So we couldn't have a situation where people could sit on it.
Right.
So we had to measure just enough to have enough stability, and that's when the father came into play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could calculate this stuff to make sure wind resistance.
Right.
Then the engineer, you throw it over in his corner, and he sit there and he calculate this stuff on how to get the right angle so hurricanes and all this. Now, it's not to say they won't top over during a hurricane, but it's just within a 50, 60 miles an hour wind, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah,
because
so,
you got enough stability on that base and it's wide enough.
So other than the artistic end of it, actually, considering the engineering and fabrication, William almost was a collaborator at certain points in the process.
Yeah, you had to be a collaborator, because that's why I went to him, because I knew that his skill level, he worked art shows, he had this artistic ability, and he had this work ethic, versus me going in with somebody that I didn't know. And this way, he could throw it back at me for us knowing something about art. I mean, a lot of guys can weld, but they can't design. You know, they could tack this and they could tack that and they can weld this together, but when it comes down to moving metal around and being able to have my vision, if I said, do this, can we do this and move this over to here and put, no problem, because we one-on-one. Right. And the same, like I was telling at one point, what's 8 feet? You tell people it's going to be 8 or 10 feet, they can't perceive it. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So you have to take a tape measure, let them see how tall 6, 8, or 10 feet is, so they can say, oh, okay, I see now. Mm-hmm. So that kind of stuff. But when we talk, we pretty well on the same wavelength. And then I came in and said, well, to the backers that this man's a collaborator. I mean, I can't just go in there saying that he's a fabricator. I mean, with the time spent.
Because of his past experience making art.
Right. I've seen guys go out there and they use fabricators, but they do just what they're supposed to do. They just weld it together and that's it. And they still don't see the piece as art. They just say, well, that's welded. Right. So it was a plus on all sides. So that's why when we did the nameplates, he got a half of it and I got half of it. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me. I mean, because it was when you collect, and we've been out there long enough that when we collaborate, everybody want to get equal billing. We don't roll like that, because we got to live with each other.
Well, how would you sum up the whole? That was a long experience, and the sculptures were put up and unveiled today. How would you summarize the whole experience from at this point?
I mean, it turned out nice, better than I expected, but I'm not going for all that fanfare. You know, when you sit there and looking for people to critique. Is there, and then let the public judge. So, but for us going through all that, yeah, it takes a lot out of it. Because once if I'm a part of my trade, when I do a piece, I'm through with it. That's my satisfaction. But to put something out and then somebody else got and think about it, when you have done it a long time, you don't need that. But when you have to go back to that, it seems more like being in college and looking for a grade. You gotta please a certain person or a certain group just to get the grade, and I don't need that. So you gotta have that little sense of that when you have those kind of dedications. It's like, wait a minute, I'll do it, and I'll just kind of bite my lip a little, but I'll go along with the program. But it's just that I'm just used to being in my own little world. And when you get out of that, I don't like to bring people in for the critique.
All right. Well, speaking of critiques, after everyone left today after the unveiling ceremony, no one was around the sculpture, And the first person to walk down the large, wide walkway there stopped and asked Kurt and I, and this is a quote now, "What is this?" And it's sort of symbolic, I think, that one question was what today is for you, is for that piece of sculpture. It's the beginning of a dialogue. That one question is what is this? That's the beginning of a dialogue, because it begs an answer, an explanation. So possibly your sculpture now is the start of a conversation.
Well,
Public art.
That's what we hoping, that it could get this area going where we get public sculpture and people bring their own experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, what is it? Well, somebody might see something, and once you get a dialogue, they may see something totally different. So as long as you get people talking, and public sculpture is 24 hours.
Well, see, there was enough interest there that he actually stopped and asked, "What is it?"
Right.
If it wasn't interesting, he wouldn't have stopped. So, I mean, that's the good part. That's sort of a validation between the artist and the average person walking down the sidewalk, that they can see it now and they can ask the question, "What is it?"
Well, that's why
it adds interest to.
That's why I like when Connie Hudson got up there and she gave her. Well, all of them did good, but I really liked her when she was talking about giving the respect women deserve. And that's one of the main things, because it's not just that Afrocentric thing that I saw in the beginning. So you start putting all the women in, and that's why you come into that sisterhood. You know, men are men, women are women, and I know for a fact that women have gotten shortchanged at some time, because at some time in history there was queens that ruled armies and countries, the whole 9 yards. And you get into this so-called civilized world, and you want to know what happened. You know. So this is just being true to self. It's no way around it. You can hide it. You know, you get that thing about it's a man's world. That might have worked a while back, but I've seen the script flip. So some things you don't say anymore.
Right.
Well, you did give your wife credit at the end of it.
I
So.
was told to say that.
Yeah, we have it on tape. We have it on tape.
Yeah.
beginning, and then surface